Married a witch? Now I will show her the fire.
The word cheater dripped red paint down my Honda's windshield like red fluid from a fresh wound. I stood there in my bathrobe, coffee mug halfway to my lips, watching the morning sun illuminate what had to be the most creative wake-up call I'd ever received. Morning sunshine, I muttered to myself, because apparently talking to vandalized cars was where my life had landed. Inside, Julie lounged at our kitchen island like she owned the world, scrolling through her phone with that smug little smile she'd perfected over our 5 years of marriage. Her blonde hair cascaded perfectly over her shoulders. Even at 7 in the morning, she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine for entitled princesses, maybe. Sleep well, she asked without looking up. Like a baby, until I discovered someone redecorated my car. I set my mug down harder than necessary. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? She finally looked at me, those blue eyes wide with fake innocence. Why would I know anything about your car, Todd? Because you're the only person I know who considers property destruction a form of artistic expression. Julie laughed, that tinkling sound that used to make my heart skip. Now it made my teeth itch. Maybe you should think about why someone would write that word on your car. Maybe examine your own behavior. My behavior? I poured myself another cup of coffee, mainly to keep my hands busy. What behavior would that be, exactly? Oh, I don't know. The way you've been distant lately. Secretive. Coming home late from your little furniture restoration projects. She air quoted the last part. Very suspicious behavior for a married man. I stared at her. You think I'm cheating because I've been refinishing a dining room set for the Hendersons? I think you're capable of more than you let on, Todd. Much more. There was something in her voice, a challenge maybe, or a threat. I'd been married long enough to recognize the difference, and this felt like both. My phone buzzed against the counter. A text notification from a group chat I didn't remember joining. The preview showed a video thumbnail with Julie's face front and center, sitting at what looked like Romano's, our favorite Italian place downtown. What's this? I held up my phone. Julie's smug expression faltered for just a second. What's what? I opened the video. Julie's voice filled the kitchen, slightly slurred from wine. Honestly, girls, Todd couldn't please a woman if she came with an instruction manual. I swear. He couldn't even satisfy a blow-up doll if it had GPS coordinates to all the right spots. The laughter from her friends echoed around our kitchen like a Greek chorus of humiliation. In the video, Julie raised her wine glass. Here's to settling, ladies. Sometimes you marry for stability, not satisfaction. I looked up at my wife, who had gone very still. When was this filmed? Todd, I can explain. When? My voice came out quieter than I'd intended, which somehow made it sound more dangerous. Last night, but I was drunk, and the girls were what? Holding a tool to your head? Forcing you to publicly humiliate your husband for entertainment? Julie stood up, smoothing down her silk pajama top. It was just girl talk. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. I set my phone down carefully. You filmed yourself telling our friends and neighbors that I'm sexually inadequate. Posted it where everyone we know can see it. And I'm being dramatic for having feelings about that. It's not like anyone takes those videos seriously. Really? Because I've got 17 notifications from people who seem to be taking it pretty seriously. I scrolled through the messages. Most were from acquaintances offering fake sympathy or barely concealed amusement. A few were from actual friends asking if I was okay. And one was from my buddy Derek. Dude, what the hell is going on? You know what, Julie? I picked up my coffee and headed for the door. You want to know what cheating behavior looks like? Stick around. You might learn something. Where are you going? To get my car cleaned. Unless you'd prefer I drive around town advertising your handiwork. I was halfway to the door when she called after me. At least I inflate myself, Todd. Your ego just leaks air. I stopped, turned around. Julie was standing in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, looking pleased with herself. That's good, I said. You should save that one for your next video. Really capture the full scope of your wit. Maybe I will. Maybe you should. And maybe next time you should think about who's been paying for those wine nights at Romano's while you entertain your friends with stories about our private life. Her face flushed. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. You'll learn to recognize it. I walked out, leaving her standing in the doorway. The morning air was crisp, and my breath came out in small puffs as I surveyed the damage to my car more closely. The paint was still wet, which meant this had happened recently. Very recently. My phone buzzed again. Another message in the group chat, this one from Julie's sister Annabelle. Yikes, trouble in paradise? Then another from someone I didn't recognize. You'll never see it coming. I stared at that last message for a long moment. Anonymous number. Ominous tone. Either someone was playing games or my morning was about to get a lot more interesting. I took a photo of my vandalized car and sent it to Derek with a message. Can you tow something for me today? His response came back immediately. What kind of something? The kind that belongs to someone who thinks they're untouchable. I'll bring the truck. I smiled for the first time all morning. Julie wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong opponent. I'd been refinishing furniture for 3 years, which meant I'd gotten very good at stripping things down to their foundation and building them back up into something completely different. Time to put those skills to use. The Riverside boxing gym smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. It was exactly the kind of place I needed to be. Somewhere I could hit things without getting arrested. I'd been coming here for 2 months, ever since Julie started her campaign of subtle psychological warfare. Turned out, I had decent reflexes and a mean right hook when properly motivated. You're getting better, said Marcus, the gym owner, wrapping my hands. But you're still thinking too much. Boxing isn't chess, Todd. Sometimes you just have to throw the punch. I'm more of a strategic planner. Strategy's good, but when someone's coming at you, you don't have time to plan. You react. I was working the heavy bag when he walked in. Ronan McKenzie, 6'2", built like he lived at the gym, and currently dating my wife. Not that I was supposed to know that yet. I'd discovered their little arrangement 3 days ago when Julie left her phone on the counter while showering. A text from R had popped up. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear the red dress, the one Todd bought you. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd bought that dress for our anniversary last year. Julie had worn it exactly once, apparently saving it for special occasions, just not occasions that involved me. Ronan sat up at the heavy bag next to mine, making a show of removing his shirt and flexing. He had the kind of muscles that came from supplements and vanity, not actual work. Pretty to look at, but I'd bet money they were more show than substance. Nice form, he said, nodding at my bag work. You new here? Few months. I kept punching steady rhythm. You? Been coming here for years. I'm Ronan. He held out a gloved hand. Todd. I shook it, noting his grip was firm but not crushing. He was trying to impress, not intimidate. Todd, he frowned like he was trying to place the name. You married to Julie Bronson? Well, Julie Patterson now, I guess. That's me. His smile got wider. Small world. I work with her father at Bronson Development. Great family. Really great. They certainly think so, Ronan laughed. Julie's mentioned you, says you're in tech. Software development and furniture restoration on the side. Furniture, huh? That's interesting. The way he said it made it clear he found it anything but interesting. More like quaint, adorable even, like a child's hobby. What about you? I asked. What do you do at Bronson Development? Sales mainly. High-end residential properties. It's a good business if you know how to read people. I bet it is. We worked our bags in silence for a few minutes. I could feel him watching me, sizing me up. Finally, he spoke again. You know, Julie mentioned you guys have been having some rough patches lately. I stopped punching. Did she now? Just in passing. Marriage is tough, you know. Takes work from both people. Is that your professional opinion? Ronan's smile faltered slightly. Just friendly advice from someone who's seen a lot of relationships come and go. How many relationships have you seen come and go, Ronan? Enough to know the warning signs. I turned to face him fully. And what warning signs would those be? When one person stops trying, stops paying attention to what their partner needs. Interesting theory. I pulled off my gloves slowly. What happens when someone pays too much attention to what someone else's partner needs? The color drained from Ronan's face. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. I stepped closer. You know exactly what I mean. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then Ronan's jaw tightened, and he stepped forward too. You got something to say to me, Todd? Just that you should be careful about giving marriage advice, especially when you don't have all the facts. Maybe I have more facts than you think. Maybe you do, but facts have a way of coming to light, don't they? Usually when you least expect it. Ronan's hands clenched into fists. You threatening me. I'm educating you. There's a difference. You'll learn to recognize it. The same words I'd used with Julie that morning. Ronan's eyes narrowed. He caught the repetition. You think you're smart, don't you? Smart enough. Smart enough for what? I smiled. Smart enough to know that when someone's coming at me, I don't have time to plan. I just react. Before he could respond, I turned and walked away, but not before I whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "Tell Julie to buy better locks for her phone." I was in the parking lot when my phone buzzed. Another message from the anonymous number. Enjoyed the show. Round 2 coming soon. This time I called the number. It went straight to voicemail, a generic automated message. No help there. But as I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Not just Ronan, someone else. Someone who knew more than they were letting on. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Derek. "Mission accomplished," he said. "One silver BMW towed from the Romano's parking lot for expired meter violation." How expired? About 30 seconds. I may have been a little eager with the hookup. "Where'd you take it?" "City impound. He'll need to pay $150 to get it back, plus prove ownership and valid registration." "Beautiful. Send me the bill for the tow." "This one's on the house, brother. After that video your wife posted, you've got a lot of people rooting for you." "What video?" "The one from last night. It's all over Facebook now. Someone shared it from that group chat." My stomach dropped. "How many people have seen it?" "Last I checked, about 300 and climbing." I hung up and immediately opened Facebook. There it was, shared by someone named Riverside Tea Spiller, the video of Julie mocking me at Romano's. The comments were a mix of supportive messages for me and brutal takedowns of Julie. "Karma's a witch, and so is she. Todd deserves better than this. What kind of wife does this to her husband?" But there were others, too. "Maybe she has a point. He always seemed like a pushover. I heard he's been acting weird lately. Maybe there's more to the story." Two sides to every marriage. I was scrolling through the comments when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Julie had liked several of the comments defending her, including one that said, "Some men need to be humiliated publicly. It's the only way they learn." My wife wasn't embarrassed by the video going viral. She was encouraging it. I sat in my driveway for a long time thinking, Julie wanted a war? Fine. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated exactly how much I'd learned about strategy, patience, and the art of the long game. Time to show her what I was really capable of. The first sign that Julie was escalating came Tuesday morning when my debit card was declined at the coffee shop downtown. I tried it again, thinking it was a machine error. Declined again. "I'm sorry," said the barista, a college kid with kind eyes and a nose ring. "Do you have another card?" I pulled out my credit card. Also declined. "Actually," I said, "can I use your phone? I need to call my bank." The automated system cheerfully informed me that my checking account had been frozen due to suspicious activity and that my credit card had been canceled at the cardholder's request. For more information, I should visit a branch location. I drove straight to First National, where I'd banked for 8 years. Sandra, the branch manager, looked uncomfortable when I walked up to her desk. "Todd," she said, not meeting my eyes, "I was hoping you'd come in." "What's going on with my account, Sandra?" She pulled up my file on her computer, frowning. "Your wife came in yesterday with documentation showing irregular withdrawals and transfers. She was concerned that your accounts had been compromised." "Compromised how?" "Large cash withdrawals, transfers to unfamiliar accounts, purchases that didn't match your normal spending patterns." Sandra turned her monitor so I could see. "Look at this. $3,000 in cash withdrawals over the past 2 weeks, all from ATMs downtown. And this transfer here, $1,500 to something called Elite Escort Services." I stared at the screen. "I didn't make any of those transactions. That's what your wife was afraid of. She thinks someone got hold of your information and is using your accounts fraudulently. Or," I said slowly, "someone with access to my accounts is making fraudulent transactions to make it look like I'm doing something I'm not." Sandra's expression shifted. "Todd, are you suggesting that Julie—" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating a fact. Those aren't my transactions, and I want them investigated." "Of course. But in the meantime, the accounts have to remain frozen until we can determine—" "How long?" 7 to 10 business days, typically." I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. "Sandra, I need access to my money. I have bills, rent, groceries. I understand, but there are procedures we have to follow, especially when there's a possibility of identity theft or marital financial misuse." The way she said those last words told me everything I needed to know. Julie hadn't just reported suspicious activity. She'd painted me as a potential misuser who was hiding money and frequenting escort services. Can I at least get a printout of all the transactions in question? I can give you a summary, but the detailed records are part of the investigation now. I took the summary and left, my hands shaking with rage. In the parking lot, I called the number for Elite Escort Services. It was disconnected. Of course it was. My phone rang. Julie. "Hi, honey," she said, sweet as poison. "How's your day going?" "Interesting. Just found out someone's been using my bank accounts to pay for courtesans." "Oh no, that's terrible. Did you call the bank?" "I did. Turns out my loving wife already handled that for me." Silence. Then, "I was trying to protect us, Todd. When I saw those transactions, when you made those transactions, I would never—" "Cut the crap, Julie. We both know what you did." Her voice went cold. "I know what the bank records show. If you have a problem with that, take it up with them." She hung up. I sat in my car, thinking. Julie had just cut off my access to money, made it look like I was cheating with courtesans, and positioned herself as the concerned wife trying to protect their joint assets. It was actually brilliant, in a sociopathic kind of way, but she'd made one mistake. She'd assumed I didn't have any money she didn't know about. I drove across town to Second National Bank, where I'd opened an account 3 months ago when I started getting suspicious about Julie's behavior. It contained the profits from my furniture restoration business. Money I'd been squirreling away just in case. Julie knew about the business, but not about the separate account. "Good afternoon, Mr. Patterson," said the teller. "How can I help you today?" "I'd like to make a withdrawal, $5,000. "Of course. Cash or check?" "Cash." She processed the transaction without any problems. My secret account was still safe. From the bank, I drove to Larry Hoffman's law office. Larry had handled my business incorporation and was the only lawyer I knew personally. His office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all dark wood and leather chairs. "Todd," he said, standing up when his secretary showed me in. "Good to see you. How's Julie?" "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about." Larry's expression grew serious as I explained the situation, the video, the bank accounts, the obvious affair. He took notes on a legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "This is pretty textbook," he said when I finished. "She's establishing a narrative that you're unstable, unfaithful, and financially irresponsible. If you're headed for divorce, and it sounds like you are, she's building her case early. What can I do about it?" "Document everything. Every interaction, every financial irregularity, every lie you can prove. And we need to get ahead of this before she files first." "You think she's going to file?" "Todd, she's already filed. This is just the groundwork." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Larry pulled a folder from his desk drawer. "These came to my office this morning. Someone knew you'd hired me and wanted to make sure I saw them first." He handed me a stack of papers. Divorce petition, temporary restraining order, motion for exclusive use of the marital home, motion for spousal support. "She's asking for the house, alimony, and a restraining order that would prevent you from coming within 500 feet of her or the property." "On what grounds?" "Domestic violence. She's claiming you've been increasingly aggressive and threatening. She has witnesses who will testify that you've been acting erratically." I thought about my confrontation with Ronan at the gym. What witnesses? Her sister, her friend Madison, and interestingly, a man named Ronan McKenzie, who says you threatened him at a local gym. I didn't threaten him. "What exactly did you say to him?" I told Larry about the conversation. He winced. "Todd, from a legal standpoint, telling someone they'll learn to recognize the difference between education and threats could absolutely be construed as threatening behavior. But I didn't actually threaten him. Doesn't matter. It's about perception. And right now, Julie is controlling the perception." I stared at the papers. "So what do? We fight back. But we do it smart. No more confrontations with the boyfriend, no more cryptic warnings. We gather evidence, we build our case, and we let the law work." "How long will that take?" "Months, maybe longer." I stood up. "I don't have months, Larry. She's destroying my reputation right now. By the time we get to court, everyone in town will think I'm an abusive cheater who frequents courtesans." "Todd, I understand your frustration, but if you do anything stupid—" "I am not going to do anything stupid. But I'm also not going to sit back and let her destroy my life while we wait for the legal system to maybe, possibly, eventually give me justice." Larry leaned back in his chair. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that if Julie wants to play dirty, she just taught me the rules. I left Larry's office with copies of all the papers and a clear understanding of my situation. Julie had declared war, and she'd gotten the first few shots in. But wars aren't won by the side that fires first. They're won by the side that fires last. I was officially homeless as of Thursday morning. The restraining order had been granted on an emergency basis, which meant I had exactly 1 hour to collect my belongings from the house, while a sheriff's deputy watched to make sure I didn't intimidate Julie. "Just clothes and personal items," the deputy said as we walked up to my own front door. "No furniture, no electronics that could be considered marital property." Julie answered the door wearing the sufferer mask she'd perfected, red-rimmed eyes, trembling hands, voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for coming, officer. I've been so scared." "Ma'am, we'll make sure this goes smoothly. Mr. Patterson will be in and out quickly." I walked through my own house like a stranger, filling 2 suitcases with clothes and toiletries while Julie watched from the living room. Every few minutes, she'd sniffle loudly or whisper something to her sister Annabelle, who'd apparently moved in to provide emotional support. "This is so hard," Julie said as I packed my laptop. "I never thought it would come to this." "That's marital property," Annabelle said, pointing at my computer. "He can't take that." "It's my work laptop," I said. "I need it to do my job." The deputy looked between us. "Is it registered to your employer?" "Yes." "Then you can take it." Annabelle frowned but didn't push it. She was younger than Julie, but somehow even more entitled. Where Julie was manipulative, Annabelle was just mean. "I can't believe you're putting Julie through this," she said as I folded my clothes. "After everything she's done for you." "Everything she's done for me?" "Supporting your little hobbies, putting up with your mood swings, trying to help you when you started acting so weird and paranoid." I looked at Julie. "Is that the story you're telling people? That I'm paranoid?" Julie dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "Todd, please, let's not do this here." "No, I think we should do this here. I think we should talk about paranoia, like how paranoid it would be for me to think my wife was having an affair with her father's employee." The deputy stepped forward. "Mr. Patterson, let's keep this civil." "Or how paranoid it would be to think she was setting up fake financial transactions to make me look like I was cheating." "Todd, stop," Julie whispered. "Or how paranoid it would be to think she orchestrated this whole thing just to get me out of the house so she could move her boyfriend in." Annabelle's face went white. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" "Because I'm betting if I drove by here tonight, I'd see a silver BMW in my driveway, well, formerly my driveway." Julie started crying harder. "Officer, please, he's scaring me. Mr. Patterson, finish packing, now." I threw the last of my clothes into the suitcase and zipped it up. "Don't worry, Julie, I'm sure you and Ronan will be very happy here." Julie's sobbing stopped abruptly, just for a second, but long enough for me to catch the slip. She'd been performing the whole time. "I don't know anyone named Ronan," she said. "Of course you don't." I walked out of my house carrying 2 suitcases and a laptop bag, officially homeless and legally prohibited from returning. The deputy followed me to my car. "Word of advice," he said quietly. "Whatever's really going on here, don't make it worse by doing something stupid." "Like what? Like driving by here tonight to see if there's a BMW in the driveway?" I looked at him. "That would be stupid, wouldn't it?" "Very stupid. Also illegal, given the restraining order." "Good thing I'm not that stupid." But I was exactly that stupid. At 11:30 that night, I parked 3 blocks away and walked through the woods behind my house. From the tree line, I had a perfect view of the driveway. No BMW. But there was a black Lexus I didn't recognize. I was taking photos with my phone when I heard voices from the back patio. Julie and a man I didn't recognize. Older, well-dressed, talking in low voices. "Told you this was moving too fast," the man was saying. "It's under control, Daddy. Todd doesn't suspect anything." Daddy. This was Harold Bronson, Julie's father and Ronan's boss. What was he doing here at midnight? "The restraining order was brilliant," Bronson continued. "But you need to be careful. If he finds out about the money, he won't. The accounts are clean." "What about Mackenzie?" "Ronan's handled. He thinks he's getting me in the divorce. Poor boy has no idea what's really happening." I crept closer, staying in the shadows. "And the escort service thing?" Julie laughed. "Genius, right? I set up the account, made the transfers, then immediately closed it. Even if Todd proves he didn't make the transactions, it just looks like he's trying to cover his tracks." "What if he hires a good lawyer?" "With what money? I've got him frozen out of everything." And even if he scrapes together legal fees, what's he going to prove? That his loving wife was concerned about suspicious financial activity, that she reported it to protect their assets? Bronson nodded approvingly. You learned well, sweetheart. I had a good teacher. They went inside and I crept back to my car, mind racing. Julie wasn't just having an affair and trying to take me for everything in the divorce. She was running some kind of con with her father's help, and Ronan was apparently as much a sufferer as I was. But a sufferer of what? I drove to the Riverside Motel, the kind of place that rented rooms by the week and didn't ask too many questions. My new home was a 12 by 12 box with wood paneling, a saggy bed, and a bathroom that had seen better decades. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. If Julie and her father were running a con, there had to be evidence somewhere. I started with Bronson Development's website. The company looked successful. High-end residential developments, commercial properties, a portfolio worth millions. But something felt off about the photos. Too polished, too generic. I dug deeper, searching for recent news about the company. Most of the articles were fluff pieces about new developments or community involvement. But buried on page 3 of a Google search, I found something interesting. A small item in the business section of the local paper from 6 months ago. Bronson Development faces permit delays on Riverside Commons project. I searched for more information about Riverside Commons. It was supposed to be a major mixed-use development downtown. Condos, retail space, offices. Ground had been broken 2 years ago, but construction seemed to have stalled. More digging revealed permit issues, environmental concerns, and what looked like a serious cash flow problem. Bronson Development had borrowed heavily to finance the project, and if it didn't get completed soon, the company was going to be in serious trouble. My phone buzzed. A text from the anonymous number. Getting warmer, but you're still not seeing the whole picture. I stared at the message. Someone was watching me, helping me, or playing with me. Maybe all three. I texted back, "What am I missing?" The response came immediately. "Check the county recorder's office tomorrow. Look up property transfers for the last 6 months. Pay attention to the buyers." Then, "And Todd, be very careful who you trust. This goes deeper than you think." I stared at my phone for a long time, then set it aside and tried to sleep. But my mind kept racing, putting together pieces of a puzzle I was only beginning to understand. Julie wasn't just trying to divorce me and take my money. She was using me somehow, as part of a larger scheme involving her father's failing business. And tomorrow I was going to find out exactly how. The county recorder's office opened at 8 a.m. sharp. I was waiting in the parking lot at 7:30, running on 3 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with suspicious eyes, helped me access the property transfer records. "What date range are you looking for?" she asked. "Last 6 months." She pulled up the database and turned the monitor toward me. "You can search by buyer, seller, or property address." I started with Bronson Development as the seller. 3 properties had been sold in the last 6 months, all to something called Riverside Holdings, LLC. The sales prices seemed low for the properties involved, almost like fire sale prices. "Can you look up Riverside Holdings for me?" She typed in the name. "Incorporated 4 months ago. Principal owner?" She squinted at the screen. "Julie Patterson. My wife owned a company that was buying distressed properties from her father's failing business. I asked for printouts of all the transactions. That'll be 50 cents per page. I'll take everything you've got." Back in my motel room, I spread the papers across the bed and started connecting dots. Bronson Development was hemorrhaging money on the stalled Riverside Commons project. To stay afloat, Harold was selling other properties to his daughter's company at below-market prices. Julie was essentially buying assets from her father's company with money that... Wait, where was Julie getting the money to buy properties? I called Larry Hoffman. "Todd, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk." "What's wrong?" "Can you come to my office? Now?" 30 minutes later, I was sitting across from Larry again. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "I did some digging into your wife's finances," he said. "It's worse than we thought." He handed me a folder. "Julie's been taking out loans using your credit and the house as collateral. Lots of loans." "How much?" $200,000, maybe more." The room spun. $200,000? For what? "According to the loan applications, home improvements and business investments, but I can't find any evidence of either. She's been funneling the money to her company to buy properties from her father." Larry nodded grimly. "And that's what it looks like. She's essentially using your credit to bail out Bronson Development while positioning herself to own the assets when the company inevitably goes bankrupt. And I'm left holding the debt. All of it. Plus, if she gets the house in the divorce, you'll be responsible for loans secured by a property you no longer own. I stared at the papers. How is this legal? It's not. It's fraud. But proving it and getting your money back are two different things. My phone rang. Derek. Todd, you need to see this. Meet me at Romano's in 10 minutes. I'm in a meeting. Trust me, you want to see this. I drove to Romano's, the Italian place where Julie had filmed her humiliating video about me. Derek was waiting in the parking lot with his tow truck. There, he said, pointing to a black Lexus parked in the back of the lot. That's Harold Bronson's car. And look who he's having lunch with. Through the restaurant window, I could see Bronson sitting at a corner table with a woman I didn't recognize, middle-aged, professional-looking, taking notes while he talked. Who is she? Rebecca Martinez. She's a bankruptcy attorney. My stomach dropped. He's filing for bankruptcy? Looks like it, which means anyone who loaned him money or bought into his projects is about to get screwed. I thought about all those property transfers, all those loans Julie had taken out in my name. If Bronson Development went bankrupt, the properties Julie bought would be worthless, but the loans would still be valid. Derek, I need a favor. Name it. Can you get me inside Romano's without them seeing me? Through the kitchen? Perfect. We went around to the back entrance. Derek knew the kitchen manager from high school, and after a brief conversation and a $20 bill, I was crouched behind the service station with a clear view of Bronson's table. Need to file within the next 2 weeks, the lawyer was saying, before the creditors start seizing assets. What about the properties I transferred to my daughter's company? Those should be protected, as long as the transfers were legitimate business transactions and not fraudulent conveyances. They were legitimate. She paid fair market value. The lawyer made a note. With what funds? Bronson hesitated. Personal savings and some loans. In her name? Another hesitation. Her and her husband's. Mr. Bronson, if your daughter used fraudulent loan applications to obtain money that she then used to buy your distressed assets, that's not going to look good to a bankruptcy judge or to the FBI. It wasn't fraudulent. Her husband signed the applications. Did he know what the money was being used for? Bronson didn't answer. The lawyer leaned forward. Mr. Bronson, I need you to understand something. If the court determines that these property transfers were part of a scheme to hide assets from creditors, your daughter and her husband could face federal fraud charges. We're talking about serious prison time. I'd heard enough. I crept back through the kitchen and met Derek in the parking lot. Well, he asked. They're going to throw me under the bus. Julie's going to claim I was in on the whole scheme, that I knowingly signed loan applications to help them hide assets from creditors. But you didn't know. Try proving that when I'm the one who signed all the papers. We drove back to my motel in silence. I sat on the bed staring at the wall, trying to figure out my next move. Julie and her father had set me up perfectly. I was going to be left with hundreds of thousands in debt, facing potential federal fraud charges, while they walked away with the assets. My phone buzzed, the anonymous number again. Ready for the truth? I called the number. This time, someone answered. Hello, Todd. It was a woman's voice, familiar, but not immediately recognizable. Who is this? Someone who's been watching this whole thing play out, someone who knows exactly what Julie and her father have been doing to you. What do you want? I want to help you destroy them, both of them. Why? Because Harold Bronson destroyed my family 15 years ago, and now it's time for payback. The line went quiet for a moment, then, meet me at the old Riverside Mall tonight at 10. Come alone. And Todd? Yeah? Bring a camera. You're going to want to record what I have to show you. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, knowing I was about to make either the smartest or the stupidest decision of my life. But at this point, what did I have to lose? The Riverside Mall had been dead for 3 years, another casualty of online shopping and suburban decay. The parking lot was cracked and weedy, the storefronts dark behind security grating. It was the perfect place for a clandestine meeting or a homicide, maybe both. I parked near the old Sears entrance and checked my phone. 10 p.m. exactly. A figure emerged from the shadows near the food court entrance, a woman in her 50s, well-dressed but tired-looking. Todd? She called softly. That's me. She walked over, extending her hand. Rebecca Martinez. We need to talk. The bankruptcy lawyer from Romano's. My mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. You were meeting with Harold Bronson today? I was. And everything I told him was true. He's facing bankruptcy, potential fraud charges, and federal prison time. What I didn't tell him is that I've been documenting his crimes for 2 years. She pulled out a thick folder. Harold Bronson destroyed my husband's construction company in 2008, used his political connections to get permits revoked, spread lies about our work quality, then swooped in to buy our contracts at bankruptcy auction prices. I'm sorry, but what does that have to do with... My husband eliminated himself rather than face the shame of losing everything we'd built. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. I've been waiting 15 years for the right moment to destroy Harold Bronson, and your wife just handed it to me. She opened the folder, revealing bank records, loan applications, property transfers, and what looked like recorded phone conversations. Julie's been sloppy, probably because she thinks she's smarter than everyone else. She's left a paper trail that leads directly to a federal fraud conviction. For her or for me? That depends on what you do next. Rebecca spread the papers on the hood of my car. Here's what's really happening. Harold's company is bankrupt, but instead of filing and letting the creditors seize his assets, he's been transferring everything to shell companies owned by family members. She pointed to a series of property transfers. Your wife's company is just one of several. Her sister Annabelle owns 2 more LLCs that have been buying Bronson properties. Her mother owns another one. They're hiding assets. Exactly. And they're using fraudulent loans to finance the purchases. Loans that were obtained using forged signatures and falsified financial information. My blood ran cold. My signature? Among others. But here's the beautiful part. I have recordings of Julie and Harold discussing the whole scheme, including the part where they talk about framing you if anyone gets suspicious. She pulled out a small digital recorder and hit play. Julie's voice filled the night air. If this goes bad, we pin it on Todd. He signed all the loan papers. He had access to all the accounts. We say he was the mastermind, and we were just following his instructions. Harold's voice. What if he fights it? Who's going to believe him? He's already been painted as an abusive cheater who frequents courtesans. We just add financial criminal to the list. They laughed. Actually laughed about destroying my life. Rebecca stopped the recording. There's 6 hours of this. More than enough to put them both away for a very long time. Why are you giving this to me? Because I want Harold Bronson to suffer the same way my husband suffered. I want him to lose everything and face the shame of public humiliation before he goes to prison. And Julie? Collateral damage. Though honestly, she might be worse than her father. I stared at the papers. What do you want me to do? Tomorrow is the Riverside Community Festival. Half the town will be there, including all the local media. Julie and Harold will be there too. The Bronsons always make a big show of a community involvement. So you're going to expose them, publicly, in front of everyone? Rebecca handed me a USB drive. Everything's on here. The recordings, the financial records, the evidence of fraud. You get up on that stage tomorrow and you tell the whole town what they did to you. They'll just deny it. Not when you play the recordings. Not when you show the bank records. Not when you reveal that Harold Bronson has been stealing from his investors and creditors for years. I took the USB drive. What about you? I'll be in the crowd, recording everything. And I'll have already sent copies of all this evidence to the FBI, the state attorney general, and the local media. Why wait until tomorrow? Because I want them to have one last night thinking they've won. I want them to sleep peacefully, believing they've destroyed you and gotten away with it. Rebecca started walking back toward the mall. One more thing, Todd. Yeah? Your wife is planning to file additional charges against you next week. She's going to claim you threatened her with physical violence and that you've been stalking her. That's insane. Is it? You drove by your house the other night. You followed Harold to Romano's. You've been digging into their financial records. She was right. Julie could easily spin my investigation into evidence of stalking and maltreatment. So tomorrow is my only chance. Tomorrow is your only chance to control the narrative. After that, you're just another defendant trying to talk his way out of trouble. I drove back to the motel with the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. I spent the night going through the evidence, preparing what I would say, and trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. At dawn, I called Larry Hoffman. Todd, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you. Preparing for war. Larry, I need you to meet me at the community festival today. Why? Because I'm about to either clear my name or get arrested for fraud. Either way, I'm going to need a lawyer. Todd, what are you planning? Justice. I hung up and got dressed. Today, the whole town was going to learn the truth about Harold and Julie Bronson, and I was going to make sure they never forgot it. The Riverside Community Festival was in full swing by the time I arrived at noon. Food trucks lined Main Street. Local bands played on the makeshift stage, and half the town milled around in the sunshine, eating funnel cake and pretending to care about community spirit. I spotted Julie immediately. She was working the crowd like a politician, accepting sympathy and support from neighbors who'd seen her viral video about my supposed inadequacies. She wore a sundress that managed to look both innocent and expensive, and she'd perfected a brave but wounded expression that made people want to protect her. Harold was holding court near the beer tent, surrounded by local business owners and city council members. He looked like a man who'd never had a worry in the world, let alone one facing bankruptcy and federal fraud charges. Ronan was there too, playing the role of supportive boyfriend. He stayed close to Julie, one protective hand on her back, glaring at anyone who looked at her wrong. Poor fool had no idea he was just another prop in their performance. I found Larry near the stage looking nervous. Todd, please tell me you're not about to do something that will get you arrested. I'm about to do something that will either clear my name or destroy my life. Maybe both. I pulled out the USB drive. Everything's on here. When this is over, you need to get copies to the FBI, the State Attorney General, and every media outlet in the region. What's on here? Proof that my wife and her father have been running a fraud scheme using my identity and credit. Proof that they plan to frame me if they got caught. And proof that Harold Bronson has been stealing from investors and creditors for years. Larry's eyes widened. Todd, if you have evidence of federal crimes, you need to turn it over to the authorities. Not, the authorities will take months to investigate, and by then Julie will have filed new charges against me and painted me as an unstable stalker. This is my one chance to control the story. The current band finished their set, and the festival organizer took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat this afternoon. Harold Bronson, one of our community's most successful businessmen and generous philanthropists, would like to say a few words. Perfect timing. Harold climbed onto the stage to polite applause. He looked confident, comfortable, like a man used to being the center of attention. Thank you all for coming out today, he began. The Riverside Community Festival represents everything I love about this town. Neighbors supporting neighbors, local businesses working together, families building something lasting for future generations. I started moving through the crowd, getting closer to the stage. My company, Bronson Development, has been proud to be part of this community for over 20 years. We've built homes, created jobs, and invested in the future of Riverside. I was almost at the front now. Julie spotted me and her face went white. She grabbed Ronan's arm and whispered something urgent in his ear. Unfortunately, Harold continued, there are always people who want to tear down what others have built. People who spread lies and make false accusations because they can't handle their own failures. He was talking about me. The son of a witch was actually using his speech to preemptively attack my credibility. Some of you may have heard rumors about my company, about my family. I want you to know that these rumors are being spread by a disturbed individual who has been stalking my daughter and making threats against our family. That was my cue. That's interesting, Harold, I called out, loud enough for the whole crowd to hear. Tell everyone about the $200,000 in fraudulent loans. The crowd turned to look at me. Harold shielded his eyes against the sun, trying to see who was talking. Tell them about Riverside Holdings LLC and the asset transfers. Tell them about the bankruptcy you're planning to file next week. Harold's face went from confident to panicked in about 3 seconds. Security! This man is violating a restraining order. But there was no security at a community festival, just a couple of off-duty cops who were more interested in their hot dogs than whatever drama was unfolding. I pushed through the crowd and climbed onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Todd Patterson. Harold Bronson just told you I'm a disturbed individual who's been spreading lies about his family. The crowd was dead silent now, sensing drama. He's right about one thing. I have been investigating his family, and what I found is going to shock you. Harold tried to grab the microphone from me, but I stepped back. Harold, why don't you tell everyone about the 6 hours of recorded conversations I have where you and Julie discuss framing me for your fraud scheme? You're insane, Harold said, but his voice cracked. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the sound system. Let's listen to one of those conversations, shall we? Julie's voice filled the festival grounds. If this goes bad, we pin it on Todd. He signed all the loan papers, he had access to all the accounts. We say he was the mastermind and we were just following his instructions. The crowd gasped. I looked out and saw Julie pushing through the people, trying to get to the stage. Harold's voice came through the speakers. What if he fights it? Who's going to believe him? He's already been painted as an abusive cheater who frequents courtesans. We just add financial criminal to the list. Their laughter echoed across the festival grounds. I stopped the recording. That's my wife, ladies and gentlemen. And Harold Bronson, discussing how to frame me for their crimes. Julie reached the stage and climbed up, her face a mask of fury. Todd, stop this right now. You're having a breakdown. Am I? Then explain this. I held up a stack of bank records. $200,000 in loans taken out in my name to fund purchases of distressed properties from your father's failing company. Those were legitimate business investments, with forged signatures and falsified financial information. I turned to the crowd. How many of you invested in Bronson development projects? How many of you are about to lose your money when Harold files for bankruptcy next week? Several hands went up. The mood of the crowd was shifting from curious to angry. Harold grabbed the microphone. This man is mentally unstable. He's been stalking my daughter, threatening my family. I have recordings of you planning all of this, I said. 6 hours of you and Julie discussing how to steal money, hide assets, and frame me for your crimes. Those recordings are fake. Are they? Then explain this. I played another clip. Harold's voice. The bankruptcy filing has to happen before the creditors start seizing assets. Rebecca says we have maybe 2 weeks. Julie's voice. What about the money Todd borrowed for the property purchases? Harold. He's liable for all of it. Even if he proves he didn't know what it was for, he still signed the papers. We walk away clean, he gets stuck with the debt. The crowd was getting ugly now. I could see people pulling out phones, recording everything. Ronan finally made it to the stage. Get away from her, he said, moving toward me. Ronan, you poor fool, I said. You don't even know, do you? You think you're her boyfriend, but you're just another mark. Julie's been using you to establish her alibi while she and her father steal millions. That's not true, Ronan said, but he looked uncertain. Ask her about the other men, I said. Ask her about the real estate agent in Springfield. Ask her about the banker in Millfield. You're not her first boyfriend, Ronan. You're just the most convenient. Julie's mask finally slipped completely. Shut up, Todd. Just shut the hell up. Or what? You'll have me arrested for domestic violence? You'll claim I threatened you? You'll plant more fake evidence in my bank accounts? I turned back to the crowd. Everything you've heard about me, the cheating, the misuse, the financial irregularities, it was all manufactured by these two to cover up their fraud scheme. Harold made one last desperate play. He's lying. He's a dangerous man who's been threatening my family. I played one final recording. Julie's voice. The domestic violence angle is perfect. No one questions a woman who claims her husband is abusive. We get the restraining order, get him out of the house, and by the time anyone figures out what really happened, we'll be long gone. Harold's voice. What if he has evidence? Julie. Evidence of what? That his loving wife was concerned about his erratic behavior and tried to protect their assets? That she was scared for her safety and sought legal protection? We're the sufferers here, Daddy. Remember that? The crowd erupted. People were shouting, pointing, demanding answers. Several were already on their phones, presumably calling the police or the FBI. I handed the microphone back to the festival organizer. That's all I have to say. The FBI will have full copies of all evidence by tonight. Thank you for your time. I walked off the stage, leaving Harold and Julie to face the angry crowd. As I pushed through the people, I heard fragments of shouted questions. How much money did you steal? What about the Riverside Commons project? Are you really filing for bankruptcy? Is any of our investment money left? I found Rebecca Martinez near the beer tent filming everything on her phone. Beautiful work, she said. Absolutely beautiful. Think it'll stick? Todd, you just confessed their crimes to half the town while providing audio evidence and documentation. They're finished. Police sirens were approaching. I could see Julie and Harold being escorted off the stage by festival organizers, while the crowd continued to shout questions and accusations. My phone buzzed. Larry. Todd, where are you? The FBI wants to talk to you. I'll be right there. I looked back at the stage where Julie was crying. Real tears this time, not the performance kind. Harold was shouting something about his lawyers, but no one was listening. Ronan stood alone near the side of the stage, looking lost and confused. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I walked toward Larry and whatever came next, knowing I'd just destroyed my wife and her father in the most public way possible. It felt better than I'd imagined. The FBI interview lasted 6 hours. They had me go through everything. The fraudulent loans, the property transfers, the recordings, the fake domestic violence charges. Agent Sarah Chen was thorough but fair. And by the end of it, I could tell she believed my story. Mr. Patterson, based on the evidence you've provided and our preliminary investigation, we're prepared to offer you immunity in exchange for your full cooperation in the prosecution of Harold and Julie Bronson. What does that mean exactly? It means you won't be charged with any crimes related to this fraud scheme, provided you testify truthfully in court and continue to cooperate with our investigation. Larry squeezed my shoulder. Take the deal, Todd. What about the restraining order? The domestic violence charges? Agent Chen smiled. I think you'll find those charges are going to disappear very quickly. The district attorney doesn't like being made to look foolish, and your wife's recordings make it clear that the domestic violence claims were fabricated. 3 days later, I was back in my house. The restraining order had been vacated, the domestic violence charges dropped, and Julie was in federal custody awaiting trial. Harold was out on bond, but facing enough charges to put him away for 20 years. Ronan had disappeared entirely. Someone said he'd moved back to Chicago. I hoped he'd learned something from the experience, but I doubted it. The local media had picked up the story, and it had gone viral in a way that made Julie's original video look like amateur hour. Wife and father-in-law frame husband in million-dollar fraud scheme was the kind of headline that got shared across social media platforms and picked up by national news outlets. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the latest news coverage, when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Rebecca Martinez holding a bottle of champagne. Celebration time, she said. Is it over? Harold's company filed for bankruptcy this morning. The FBI has seized all the assets that were fraudulently transferred, including the properties your wife bought with your stolen money. And Julie just fired her lawyer and is asking about a plea deal. What kind of plea deal? The kind where she admits to everything and testifies against her father in exchange for a reduced sentence. Apparently, facing 20 years in federal prison has a way of clarifying one's priorities. I let Rebecca in and we sat at my kitchen table. She poured champagne into coffee mugs. I didn't own proper champagne glasses. What happens to the people who invested in Harold's projects? They'll get some of their money back, but not all of it. The bankruptcy trustee will liquidate everything and distribute the proceeds to creditors and sufferers. And the loans Julie took out in my name? Voided. The banks will eat the losses as part of their fraud insurance claims. I took a sip of champagne. It tasted like victory and relief in equal measure. What about you? I asked. You got your revenge on Harold. Was it worth the 15-year wait? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. My husband used to say that revenge was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But sometimes, Todd, sometimes the poison is actually medicine. She raised her mug. To justice served cold. To justice served publicly. We clinked mugs and drank. A week later, I was back at Romano's, sitting at the same table where Julie had filmed her humiliating video about me. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was celebrating my victory at the scene of my original humiliation. Derek joined me for dinner, along with several other friends who'd stood by me during the whole ordeal. The restaurant was buzzing with conversation about the Bronson scandal. I'd become something of a local celebrity, the wronged husband who'd taken down a corrupt businessman and his scheming daughter. So what's next? Derek asked. You going to write a book? Do the talk show circuit? I'm going to refinish furniture and try to have a normal life. Come on, man, you're famous now. You could leverage this into something big. I looked around the restaurant at all the people sneaking glances at me and whispering, I never wanted to be famous, Derek. I just wanted my life back. And now you have it. Now I have it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations. You played the game better than I expected. I showed it to Derek, another anonymous admirer, probably just someone who saw the news coverage. But something about the message bothered me. The phrasing was familiar, like I'd heard it before. I was walking to my car when I figured it out. The message was similar to the anonymous texts I'd been getting throughout the whole ordeal, the ones that had led me to the county recorder's office and ultimately to Rebecca Martinez. I called the number. It went straight to voicemail, but this time the message was different. "You've reached Rebecca Martinez. Please leave a message." Rebecca had been my anonymous helper all along. I drove to her office, but the building was dark. A for lease sign hung in the window. I called her cell phone. "Todd," she answered. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out. You were the anonymous texter. You've been manipulating this whole thing from the beginning." Manipulating is a strong word. I prefer orchestrating. "Where are you?" "Airport. My flight leaves in an hour." "Flight to where?" "Does it matter?" "My work here is done. Harold Bronson is ruined, just like he ruined my husband. Justice has been served." I sat in my car outside her empty office building. "You used me. I gave you the tools to save yourself. What you did with them was up to you. What if I hadn't figured it out? What if I'd just taken the misuse and let them destroy me? Then you would have deserved what happened to you. But I knew you wouldn't. I could tell from the first time I saw you that you were a fighter. You just needed the right motivation." The line was quiet for a moment. Then, "Todd, your wife and her father were going to destroy you anyway. All I did was make sure you had the weapons to fight back. And get your revenge in the process." "And get my revenge in the process," she agreed. "Everyone wins except the people who deserve to lose." I heard an airport announcement in the background. "I have to go," Rebecca said. "But Todd, you should be proud of yourself. You didn't just survive what they did to you. You won." The line went dead. I drove home through the quiet streets of Riverside, thinking about everything that had happened. Julie was facing federal prison time. Harold's company was bankrupt and his reputation destroyed. I had my house back, my name cleared, and my life restored. And I'd learned something important about myself. When pushed to the edge, I didn't break. I pushed back. I pulled into my driveway and sat for a moment, looking at my house. Really my house now, not ours. Tomorrow I'd start putting my life back together. Maybe I'd date again eventually. Maybe I'd expand my furniture restoration business. Maybe I'd write that book Derek had suggested. But tonight, I was just going to sit in my own house, drink my own coffee, and enjoy the silence of a life reclaimed. As I walked to my front door, I thought about Julie's original video, the one where she'd mocked my abilities and suggested I couldn't please anyone. Turned out she was wrong about that too. I'd pleased myself just fine. The end character count, 62,847 characters.